Hi there! Today I will start an experiment. Please comment below if you have any suggested improvements. I will need some outriggers to support the big sail area on my kayak. To replace the need for an additional centerboard, I will make the pontoons asymmetrical. 2 hydrofoils pushing the kayak upwind. I have this symmetrical NaCa airfoil that I will use for the bottom part to have an initial tipping resistance. Then gradually transform this into this asymmetrical airfoil, giving an increased drifting slipping resistance at higher heeling angles. I decide to make an 80 cm long pontoon, and I mark the total length on the foam board. From the blueprint I calculate that an 80 cm long foil will be 8 cm at the widest place. Thus I mark the middle point 4 cm in from the edge. Now I can draw the middle line. This will be the middle line for both types of hydrofoil. On the blueprint I measure the distance at each station. Using the scale factor I can calculate the distance in my case. Then I mark the distance on the foam. When all 10% incremental station has a mark, I draw the profile. And cut out the profile. As the lower part will be faced down to the key, it do not need to be as wide as the top part. With the sander I try to trim the profile. It turns out to be easier to hold the foam instead of the sander. Now I measure out a symmetrical hydrofoil and draw the profile in the same way as a symmetrical one. And cut it out. It is a bit tricky to sand the foils. It is easy to hold the foam at a distance and allow the foam to bounce. 1 layer of a symmetrical foil and 2 layers of lifting foil will make up the pontoon. Now I face the lower symmetrical foil with straight keel. Also the lower part of the lifting foil needs some facing. Before I can glue the foils together with thickened epoxy, I align the foils. Before securing the alignment. When cured, I remove the tape. And trim the joining. The belt sander is a bit too efficient, so I hand trim some areas and cut the straight ending of the foil. I will put the pontoons after the mast. Here I tried to get the angle right, to fit with the beams that I will finish later. I cut holes in the pontoons for the beams. The foam is not particularly strong, so I will strengthen around the fittings with some wood. Here I make a support for the bolt holding the pontoon to the beam. An 8mm carriage bolt will be enough. I cut into the foam to get room for the bolt support and excavate the foam with a drill and the rasp. Before it fits. I also add places to fit lines to control the pontoons in case I will need them later. One in the front and one further aft. If needed, these can be used to fit lines, controlling the pontoon sideways. With some fairing compound, I flatten and strengthen the surface. I'm a bit short of it, so I mix it with epoxy and micro balloons on this side. Around the beam support I will need to strengthen with more wood. I cut small pieces of strip. To cover the hole. Now I can glue on all strengthening wood. I fill the holes with thickened epoxy before pressing in the piece. Also the bolt and the associated wood. Any remaining gaps are filled with thickened epoxy. After the bolt has cured, I start on the wood layer by making a hole for the bolt. As there are several pieces that need to be joined together, I dry fit it first, to be sure it will work. Then I strike thickened epoxy on all surfaces. And on the wood. Before joining the two, I also add wood on the side. And secure it with tape. Before I can put glass on the surface I need to sand, to flatten out any big unevenness. On the bending surfaces, I sand by hand, in order to not take away too much. When all is flat enough, I move inside, to cut up the glass I need. I cut out for the beam fitting. Wet all low spots with thickened epoxy, and the rest with a less thick epoxy. As I cover the glass, I hope to reduce the amount of air bubbles formed by having this somewhat formable layer underneath. I wet out the cloth with pure epoxy. Later I strengthen and cover the keel. Before all surfaces are covered. Now I'm almost done with the pontoons. I will not make the finished surface yet, as I'm sure that these will not work straight away. I anticipate some fiddling around before they will work, as this is a prototype idea. As you can see, I have put glass fiber on all surfaces. It's not pretty, I know, and it will probably take up some water somewhere, but I only plan to use them for a short while and see what needs to be improved before I will make a finish layer. And then I still need to sand them for the finish layer. Please subscribe to follow how it turns out with the supporting beams and the fittings to the kayak. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time.